Like I would smoke cigarettes until I coughed, and then I would cough till I almost puke, and then I'd be like, oh, well. Every time I wanted to smoke a cigarette, I would get up and go running.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the School and Struggle podcast. I'm super excited about the conversation tonight, and I'm really excited to get Todd's perspective on what we're going to talk about. But before I tell him what we're going to talk about and spring that on him, just want to check in, see how everything's going in Washington State. What's up, Todd?
What's up, Peter? Washington State, we had a wintry mix this morning when I was sitting in my hot tub. Some snowflakes came out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, look at this. So we're getting some snow in the mountains, and it's going to be a good winter, I think. How about you? What's going on in VT?
Before I tell you about VT, do you start every day in the hot tub?
If I can. Most days begin in my hot tub.
Is that the first thing you do after you wake up?
Yep, pretty much.
How long do you go in the hot tub for?
As long as I possibly can. Usually about an hour, I guess. So I meditate in the hot tub, and I try to get my first 40 ounces of water in. And then, that's pretty much it. Then I come in and brush my teeth and get going.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of weather, we had 8 inches of snow yesterday, and it was really cool. I had a moment where I just looked out the window and just watched my daughter playing outside by herself and doing all the things that I vividly remember doing. She was sledding, and then she went over to the snow bank that the plow had made, and she built a fort there. And then she built a chair and laid down and looked up as the snow was falling down on her face. And I just remember doing all that stuff. And it was a really, really special moment for me to just quietly, calmly, and very intentionally just watch her operate outside in the snow. And it was awesome.
That's cool.
So in my role as a high school teacher, fitness instructor, and unofficial life coach for many of the people that I interact with, the question that I get probably more than any other question is, will you help me start this habit? Or will you help me stop this habit? And a habit is, by my definition, anything that we repeatedly do. And that can be whether we're aware of it or not. And we are the sum of what we repeatedly do. I also believe that. And I'm just so fascinated how some people are able to instill habits in their life in certain ways where other people might struggle with that. And this is where the schooling struggle piece comes in for this conversation is I feel that all of us in some way, shape, or form are trying to improve in some way. And we either want to create new habits, adjust habits, or do away with habits. And I don't have a perfect answer for when someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to start working out. I want to start eating cleaner. I want to get rid of the toxicity in my life. I want to go to bed earlier. I have bits and pieces, and I've done a ton of looking into this and listened to podcasts and read books and talked to people who I really trust their perspective on it. And I'm really excited to get your thoughts on this. The struggle that I want to talk about tonight is making or changing lifestyle habits. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I feel like for me, in any ways, there's always been a few things that underpin habits for me. So as you were talking, I wrote down some things about what I was thinking about you were talking. And I think that for me, it's usually intention, and intention has to drive a change of habit, right? So be it an instance of something horrific that happened, or so a situation like that can take you to the very bottom of your chasm and make you have to make a change. So let's say, God forbid, somebody passes away suddenly or something like that. There is going to be things that you are going to have to do that you didn't once want to do because you have to now evolve into a different way. So that's one camp. The other camp would be, and I kind of skipped right over it, but it's intention. Like I intentionally want to eat better. I intentionally need to make a difference somehow in the way that I evolve. And to do that, I need to set the intention and then go after that. And then there's always interest in utility. So for my mind anyways, I have to be very interested in something in order for it to keep my attention. And so through that exercising of that muscle of interest, I have to be able to apply that in a way that is positive. So there's two sides. There's the negative interest, like I want to watch TV all day, and then there's the positive interest in I want to improve my mile time. So I always try to. I've learned to go the way of positivity as often as I possibly can, if I can see it.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's my habit.
I recently heard, I think Abraham Lincoln was quoted as saying, discipline is the difference between what we want now and what we want most. And I'm coming to learn that what we want now as humans is often not aligned with what we want most, right? What I want most is to feel healthy and well and to be thriving at all times in my life. Like, I would love to have that. But what goes into that is, saying no to the processed foods and committing to a good night of sleep and committing to all these different things that need to happen so that I can thrive. And I find, especially in working with high schoolers, that the temptation or the draw to do what I want now often overpowers what I want most. And I think that's such a really interesting thing, that we want these things that we want most, whatever those are, but in the moment we choose what we want now, the easy thing, the thing that's maybe non-committal, and where that leads us after a day, after a week, after a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and we look back and we say, wow, if I did what I wanted most, I'd be in a different spot than I am now. And now I'm just kind of stuck. I've watched Netflix now for 3 hours a day for 10 years. What has that gotten me? And I just find that to be a really interesting thing. So when people ask me these questions about how can I make lifestyle changes, I've come to learn that in order to achieve what we've never achieved, we have to do something we've never done. And many people are not willing to change behavior or do something they've never done, but they still hope to achieve something they've never achieved. And helping people with that is a really fun piece of my world, but also incredibly challenging, because I often find that I don't know that they actually want the change that they think they do.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that people are stopped because they don't want to. I think you become complacent in comfort. So there is an element of that, like you were saying. A lot of times I find that people are unsure, and so they let that become a reason to stop or not start. So January is coming up, of course. And when you go to the gym and you have for-profit gym, people are, every resolution comes with some sort of intent on I'm going to get myself into better health, or especially in this area. But when you talk to people and you meet them where they truly are, and you're able to have a conversation about what does that really mean to them, or what does that look like, it's often shrouded with confusion. Like, oh, I went to a gym, the Globo gym, and I don't know if I should work on my back or my lats today. Right. And so we don't have these problems in CrossFit, but it's still this, as far as the programming goes, but the problem is, how do you make the horse thirsty? So you can get people in the door, but you have to give them the tools, or you have to make available to them the tools to spark the interest that keeps them going. That's what I found. And I think that if you think about the lowest level of any habit you form, or any, maybe not any habit, but ones that are underlined with intention, I think that you have to first diffuse the confusion. And then after that, then you begin to see the road by which you can walk to get to that new thing.
So as far as tactically speaking, like, things that we can put in place or things that we can do to create new lifestyle habits, I've found, and this is what I share with people when they ask me this, is that three main things are kind of what I believe need to happen. And these aren't the tactical pieces yet. I'll get to those in a second. But that the lifestyle change needs to be somehow sustainable. So it needs to be able to be repeated. It needs to be enjoyable in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the act of doing it is not enjoyable, but the feeling after is. For many people, a workout is a good example of that. And it needs to move you closer to the person that you're desiring to be. If it has all those three, it's sustainable, it's enjoyable, and it moves you closer to the person you desire to be, I think that's the first step. And then when people say, well, what's something that I can do? I truly believe in finding the smallest way to start. So you find a very, very small way to start, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then you write it down, you commit to this thing, and you track it, and you include someone that you feel cares about you in the process. So the three things is to find the smallest change you can make, write it down, track it. Those are kind of two combined into one, and include somebody in the process. An example of that is from my life. So we had a student in my former school who his level of anxiety about coming to school was so intense that he wouldn't even get in the car with his mother to come to school. He was just at home all day. And the team of teachers and the parent decided that the mom was going to put the student in the car and drive to the front door of the school. And they were going to sit in the parking lot for a minute. And then mom was going to drive home with him.
As the first
step. That was the first step.
Yep.
Just get him in the car and drive to school and sit there and then drive. And then 2 minutes. And this is over time. This isn't like the next day. This is like when he's able to do this without a certain level of anxiety. And then you get out of the car and you stand next to the car. And then you take a couple steps toward the door. You see where this is going. And this, I mean, this could take an entire school year just to get the student into the classroom. But without those steps, it's not going to work at all. So I think in marketing or business, they call it the minimal viable product. But what's the smallest step? So my friend just bought a exercise bike, and he was saying, well, where do I start? I said, you literally need to go down into your basement and sit on that bike and do not pedal it for 60 seconds. Sit on the bike for 60 seconds and then walk away from the bike. Because you need to start to create the habit of going down there and getting on the bike. And we'll slowly build from there. But that's where I'm asking him to start. That's sustainable. It's doable. And then to check in with somebody every night. And I have a number of people in my life, and I receive texts every night. Some are working on nutrition, some are working on fitness. And you just check in because you know that person, that accountability person, is waiting to hear from you. And it feels really good when you accomplish something to let somebody know. Like, I'm going to commit to walk for 5 minutes. I do my 5-minute walk, and now I get to text my friend and say, guess what? Just did my 5 minutes. If you can meet up with them and in person, do it together, even better, but that's not always an option. And just being accountable with another person is huge. So those are the big three for me. What do you think about that?
I think that those are fantastic. And I've never really thought about breaking them down. The more I go into the world of coaching, the more I see the utility in this, but there's a book called The 5-Second Rule. I don't know if you've heard of it. Mel Robbins, I think, is her name. I'll drop a link in the show notes.
For those of you that pay attention, Todd has been working behind the scenes to increase the show note information, and there's some pretty cool stuff in the last episode.
Thanks, Peter. The 5-Second Rule is basically a recount of her story where she was struggling with depression and anxiety, more so depression to the point where it became crippling, like she couldn't get out of bed. And she was watching a television show one day. I might have this a little bit off, but she was watching TV one day while she was laying in bed, wondering why she couldn't get out of bed. And it was some sort of rocket on a launch pad, some NASA or something like this. And it was the countdown, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the rocket went off. And she had this epiphany in her mind. She's like, well, if I count down and then I have to do something, that's the way to start everything. So if it just begins with me getting out of bed, well, then I've already done it. Like, the rocket's not going to come back to the launch pad. So she put that in her mind that way. And then she started evolving that into all the things that she did. And what she found through that was, in 5 seconds, you're going to know in your mind whether you intend to do something or not. Because if you're like, it's like the coin flip conundrum, right? Like, as soon as you flip it, you know which one you wanted and which one you didn't. Same thing with the 5-second rule. But so what she would do is she would, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to brush my teeth, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to make the pot of coffee. And then she found that as she was able to realize that those small wins had stacked, going to what you were saying, is you have to start somewhere. And then you also have to, you might write it down. You might remember it. You might put affirmations all over some kitchen window or maybe a mirror. But when you begin to recall those things or have the ability to recall those wins, that's when you really start to seed the habit forming, I think, is because oftentimes, you'll forget that you did something and then you'll get into this rumination cycle about why you didn't get the next thing done. But if you really look at the win of the first one, it's easier to stack upon the other one. And then there was another book I was going to, it's called Atomic Habits. It's kind of the same idea, but it's how do you group habits into little compartments, if you will, or building blocks, and then begin to stack them towards things that are greater as you go. And I think that those make a lot of sense. The accountability individual is huge, right? So I know that you've told me this about myself, telling you, you have to be accountable for this podcast or whatever. But when you said you have to see people in person, it is so much deeper of a connection. I think it's like receiving feedback, right? It's like candid feedback from somebody who is willing to give it to you in person is a way different deal than if they just write you a note, right? Like it's like it takes so many more nuances of humanity or human traits to sit with discomfort and tell somebody something that they may not want to hear. Like that is, and going that extra mile says a lot about the person there too. So I think that all those things though are kind of grouped into creating that road towards a new habit and towards doing it. I think it's really cool that you do that. You probably do it at school, and that's probably what you're talking about, how you've seen it unfold. But I don't think a lot of people put a lot of thought into breaking it down into steps so you can make it reproducible, that you can then teach it. I think that's really cool.
In the education world, they call that scaffolding, and that's just different ways to meet different learners and different styles. Man, I love so much of what you just said. Thank you for that. It launched so many different thoughts in my head and things that I think would be worth sharing. And the first is I read somewhere that the goal is it's the same thing as stacking wins. It's create a chain. And this particular person is saying that 2 in a row is a chain. And once you have 2 in a row, then you got to go for 3. And then once you got to go for 3, then you keep going. And once the chain is going, the goal is not to break the chain. However, if the chain does break, don't let the chain stay broken for too long. That's a big one. I love that. The other thing that I heard that I love, and a lot of the stuff that I learned comes from Ben Bergeron. He hosts the podcast Chasing Excellence and wrote the book Chasing Excellence. And he talks about, I'm the type of person that, and some people that have listened to my content in the past have heard this before, but I think this one is absolutely huge. And as you decide the type of person that you want to be before the challenge occurs. And the example that he gives that I love is when I set my alarm before I go to bed at night, I look at that alarm clock and I say, I'm the type of person that does not hit snooze. And when that alarm goes off in the morning and my choice is to hit snooze and get 9 more minutes of my comfy sheets in my warm bed, it's a cold winter day in Vermont, I've decided I'm the type of person that does not hit snooze. So when that alarm goes off, say, nope, I'm the type of person that's already decided I don't do this. And this has been super helpful for me. I've used it in a number of ways. I decided I'm the type of person that lowers my laptop screen when someone walks into my working space, whether it's a student or a colleague or whoever. I put the screen down because I know what it feels like when people do that for me. I'm the type of person that does not get emotional or react when my daughter has a public tantrum. She's just coming out of the toddler years, but all right, I'm the type of person that doesn't do these types of things, or I'm the type of person that does these types of things. And you can say that you're the type of person. So when this challenge or this thing arises, I'm the type of person that goes for my daily run or my daily walk, no matter what the weather is. You wake up, it's cold, it's rainy. Nope. You've already said, I'm the type of person that walks in the rain. I'm the type of person that walks when I have a sniffly nose, whatever that is. And he also talks about being responsible. And if you look at those words, it's the ability to respond, right? So I'm having this hardship and I want to try to break it by creating this new habit, by eating better, by sending a daily text to someone that I care about, whatever this thing is that I'm trying to improve upon or be better at. I need to have the ability to respond, to be responsible toward holding myself accountable. And at some point, and the research shows that the biggest motivator is progress, right? If I'm giving an effort, and nothing is happening, versus giving an effort, seeing a result, giving an effort, seeing a result, I'm going to be much more motivated to continue to drive, right? So the biggest motivator is progress. But at some point, if we don't have that internal motivation, we're just going to have so much mental resolve and have so much mental fortitude that we can do the thing without seeing the progress and stay with it long enough so we do see the progress. And that is the ability to respond to the challenge, being responsible. And a lot of that stuff is really helpful for me, but I have a hard time communicating that to the people that I work with and trying to help them take the necessary steps forward. I just threw a lot at you.
No, that's fine. I like it when you do that because I scribbled things while you're writing. Can you hear me scribble that, by the
Not
way?
really.
Okay, cool. Not that it
The one thing
matters.
I want to make that we're having this conversation right around the first of the year. Just
Yeah.
throwing it out there. I heard the other day that 90% of New Year's resolutions are defunct by January 17th.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Well, that takes me to another point, but there, yeah, we'll get there in a minute.
Don't get me going on New Year's resolutions
Okay,
because
well,
I don't need a date to tell me I need to make a lifestyle change. If I want to make a lifestyle change
Yeah.
on March 17th,
immediately. Yeah, right. But again, it goes to intention, right? Like, yeah,
Mm.
don't get me started on that either. I think that though that there are a few points wrapped up in that you have to be cognizant of. One is the awareness. So you have to know how to be accountable. You have to know how to be responsible for those things. And you also have to have an awareness of what that means to yourself and others. So I think that there's a large piece, and I think I say I think a lot, but I think when we talk about kids,
I like that you think. I do
yeah,
like that you think.
I like to think.
You strike me as a thinker.
I think sometimes. But kids, now it's going to be all over the place. Kids lack the background to know how to think about those things. I think, and so it's really cool that teachers, especially teachers like you, are there to provide guardrails and to give structure. What do you call it? Framework or whatever it is around scaffolding, around ways to be more productive with awareness of those thoughts. So that's really cool. I've also seen, and this could be a byproduct of maybe certain nuances of people's wiring, but especially in the gym, I've known a couple individuals that started out and they were kind of inefficient at working out. And then over time, obviously with practice, they got much better. And during that time in parallel, they had, let's say, got married, or they had, started a new job or something like that. But without that awareness or components of what you were explaining, you can go too far in one direction. And then that can unravel the things on the other side of your life. So let's say, oh, I want to be a games athlete, right? Or, oh, I want to be the best I can at this. But when you begin to focus so much on that it becomes your everything or your major point of focus, other parts can fall apart. So it's also navigating that razor's edge of, what do I want to get out of this? But what am I willing to put into it? And what am I willing to balance? So I drink like a fish most of the time. And I've tried at a couple different points in my life to just stop completely just to see what would happen. And though I've been successful for, 6 months here, a year there, whatever, my closest friends, my wife included, always say, it's a balance. Like, you really have to strike a balance between the things that you enjoy and the things that are dangerous to keep you from achieving greatness or betterment of yourself. And so I think it's important to note, though, that you do have to have a balance. Like, there is sometimes that you will fail or you will go back. And like, I like your chain analogy, because oftentimes if somebody gets off of it and there's like, oh, the whole chain's busted, throw it away. Right. And then they're less apt to start again. So I do like you better hurry up and get, it's almost like it's an unraveling sweater. Like, I got to hurry up and stop this thing from unraveling and then begin to rebuild it again, because a lot of people will languish there too. So yeah, but excellent points.
One other piece that I think is helpful with this process, and again, I'm not a counselor or certified anything really. I just love people. I love people. I just love interacting with people. One thing I think is important part of this process is to recognize or try to recognize the barriers that are in the way of whatever it is that you're trying to achieve with whatever lifestyle changes you're trying to make, right? So if a student comes to me and they want to make a plan for their nutrition, we talk about, well, what are the barriers? Well, if there's always soda in my house, but I'm trying not to drink soda, the amount of mental energy that goes into saying no to it 24/7 versus just not having it in the house. And I know that many of my students are at the age where they don't control the food that comes in and out of their home. So this is just an example I'm giving. But if we recognize the barriers, sometimes that's helpful with this whole process. That's huge. The other piece that's not really related to what I just said, but that is related to this conversation is that we get these dopamine hits when we get ideas about things that we're going to accomplish in our life, right? So if I say to you, hey, I've always wanted to run a marathon, and you're like, dude, you should run a marathon. I'm like, awesome. I go out and drop the money on the shoes. I maybe even hire a coach. I spend a bunch of money on online programming, and now I have my everything all set to go. And day one, I go on run. It feels good. Day two feels good. And then over time, like that's when the grind sets in, right? And the dopamine of thinking that I'm going to do this thing is kind of gone. And now it's up to myself to kind of carry it through. And we get really excited about making plans and thinking about what we want to do and the big, hairy, audacious goals and all these things. And then when it's time to put the work in day after day after day, that discipline piece is really where the rubber meets the road or where it sets in. And as a CrossFitter, I'm sure you've heard the definition of virtuosity is the ability to do the common uncommonly well. And I think the people that achieve great things just have the ability and the discipline to do the common things, get up and do what you want to do over and over and over and over again are the people that achieve greatness, not necessarily people that are born into any type of situation. Obviously, there are many, many variables at play into quote unquote success, but it's my belief, and I'll probably say this on every single podcast, that if we treat people well and work hard, we can do whatever we want. But that ability to be virtuous and to do the common uncommonly well and just stay with it and stay with it and stay with it, that 10,000 hour rule. And the definition of brave in my mind has changed. I used to think a brave person wasn't scared of stuff, but I'm coming to learn that a brave person is very scared and very uncomfortable, but they do the thing anyway with the unknown at the end of the ride. And I think that that's really cool. I'm watching Todd just think. It's really, really cool.
This is my thinking face.
Do you like it when I throw 7 different things at you in one?
Yeah,
like,
it's good that it's recorded,
words?
but I don't get to do it. I don't get to review it in real time. And there's so many ways you could go on a conversation like this. It's just
I know.
I listen to there's a guy on the world. There's probably a few of them. His name's Tom, and
are you saying there's a few guys named Tom in the world?
There's just a few, maybe a couple that are named Tom Smith. I'm not sure, but anyways, what I've learned from Tom, it kind of goes back to what I was saying a bit ago. It's about realizing those wins, right? And then to go with what you were saying, I'm the type of person that, right? And it's building that kind of self-reward system, I think is really what it is, right? So like try to go take a cold shower for a minute a day for 30 days, right? But pretty soon you're like, I'm the kind of person that just takes cold showers. And, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, you become that person. I'm the kind of person that gets up in the morning and goes running in the rain because I have to run today. But you know that you've ran the last 30 days, right? And so there is the reward, I think, that then garners the fortitude to continue to go towards finding that grit. I really think that's what you don't either have grit or you're born with grit. Some people might seem like that. I read something today that was very interesting, and it said just because somebody moves it easily doesn't mean the load isn't heavy, right? And so it just relates to what they've done. They've picked up this rock 40 times. They know what to expect. You look at that rock and you're like, man, there's no way I'm going to pick that thing up, and it's still heavy to everybody, but at the same time, they've just come through that awareness that they know they've done this and they can do it again and again.
That reminds me of the analogy that I heard and I share with my students is, if you whack a rock with a hammer 99 times and it doesn't break, and then you hit it one more time and on the 100th it cracks. It wasn't just that one hit that cracked it. It was the 99 before it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of hard to see sometimes, as I was saying earlier, that progress is the biggest motivator, and not seeing that progress, not seeing the micro cracks inside the center of the rock that are happening from each hit. It's hard to stay motivated to keep swinging that hammer.
Yeah. Yeah. I could get the jackhammer at that point. But yeah, I mean, that too, there are definitely things that people have learned and that they share that can expedite, your success in those things. But I think when you really look at it from a very high level, you have to endure those small wins. You can't just cheat it. I think a lot of the things we do at the gym actually relate to the way that we go through life, or the way we approach it.
I think fitness is the microcosm for life. And I think that's why I use it for a lot of my analogies as well, is just like you can't shortcut it and you can't shortcut life, and you get out what you put in. And that's why fitness is such a good representation of, I think, the human condition.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
It's true. And sometimes it sucks. And sometimes you just have to go through it. It's just the only way out is through. That's how it works.
I had a student send me an email the other day, and he just said, he was talking about how grateful he was for the class and what he learned so far this semester. And he said, I'll be honest with you, I often dread fitness, but those days that I dread it and do it are the days that I feel the best. And that gave me tingles in the back of my neck. It was really cool.
Good job.
Really cool. Last thing I want to bring up before we bring this conversation to a close is the thought or the mindset of don't wait until you're ready to start. And this one has been a real challenge for me. And this podcast is a great example of that. I've been wanting to do this thing for 5 years. And I was like, well, I'll do it, when I'm finished with this other thing. And I'll do it when I feel more confident about my tech skills. And I feel that if we wait until we're ready, we're never gonna do it. And it's such a great and such a convenient excuse. Well, I'm just not ready right now, or I don't have the ability to do it right now. I don't know about you, but as a fitness instructor, I have had so many people in my life tell me, I just want to get in shape before I start going to the gym.
Yeah,
I've heard that so many times. And a lot of it is self-preservation. Like they don't want to be seen as an unfit person in a space that has a performance-based approach. I get all that. But for me, that's been a challenge, is like, I wait until I'm ready, and it's a slippery slope, because if we wait until we're ready, we're never going to do it.
Did you wait till you had six-pack abs before you became a lifeguard at the Blizzard Beach?
No,
I
didn't.
Good. Just wondering.
But I got way too caught up in vanity when I did become a lifeguard, and that became a very intense goal of mine. Unhealthily.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I was going to say before we switch gears, but it leads right into its perfect segue, was over my years, at least in the last 5 or 6, I used to try to inspire people by saying, look what I did, this worked for me, or here's how you could do what I did. Right. And people would look at me dumbfounded, and then they would never start, or they would, we'd have a conversation, but no accountability would come out of it, no action would come out of it. And it wasn't until I started leading by example, like by doing the thing around them, that people started to realize, or that I started to realize, I guess, of myself, that all that, you could talk all day, that isn't going to make any difference. It's when they see you exemplify that thing, that's when it really, when the lesson is really available for them to learn. You probably see that as a teacher all the time, right?
The time. I was so excited to go to high school and share all the science that I learned about eccentric and concentric, muscles and all this stuff. And kids are like, honestly, Mr. D, what are you doing? That's what I want to do. I'll talk to them till I'm blue in the face about nutrition. And they're like, yeah, but what do you eat?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. Like, you go to buy a car, you talk to the salesman, and you're like, yo, what car does your wife drive? That's the car I want. You go to your financial guide. What are you invested in?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't give me all this other stuff. Like, what funds are you investing in? That's what I want to invest in. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah. So it's so funny that you brought that up about your own progress, because I want to close with these 2 questions, and I'd love for us each to answer them. And I actually haven't even thought about my answers to them. One is, what is a lifestyle change that you've made that took a long time to see the result in, and now you're really happy you stuck with it? And the second question is, what is something that you've been meaning or wanting to implement in your life, and for whatever reason, you just have not yet been able to make that a regular habit for yourself?
You want me to go first?
Yes, please.
I'm nice with the please, with sugar on top. One of the hardest things that I ever did that took a long time to accomplish, well, it didn't really take a long time, but it took a long time to do, was stop smoking. So I smoked cigarettes for a long time. And one day
How long? More than a decade?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think I probably had my first cigarette when I was 13, and I probably quit smoking sometime in my 30s. One day I got so tired of smoking cigarettes, like I would smoke cigarettes until I coughed, and then I would cough till I almost puke, and then I'd be like, oh, well, maybe I'll quit smoking. And then 5 minutes later, I'm smoking another cigarette, right? So it made no sense. And so I realized that if I was really going to make that change, that I was going to have to replace it. So I'm a huge advocate for, if you're going to change your vices, you're just going to switch them out. You're going to switch that vice with hopefully a better or more positive vice, and then you're going to see how that works. But every time I wanted to smoke a cigarette, I would get up and go running. And so that's eventually how I got out of that. But but that was the lifestyle change. It took me a very long time to implement.
What you said reminded me of something that I heard of someone that was, he decided to replace his pre-bedtime snack with max push-ups. And he said he realized that the dopamine response that he was getting from the dessert and from the push-ups was the exact same.
Yeah.
He felt just as good while doing the push-ups. So he just switched from ice cream to push-ups. It totally worked for him.
There you go.
That's crazy. Yeah, crazy. It's funny that you mentioned the 6-pack abs in the lifeguard. So when I was lifeguarding, it was a big deal to me how I looked. Like I put way too much stock in being a very low percentage of body fat and being shredded. My family still makes fun of me for it. And I couldn't tell you how many times fathers whose kids were swimming at the pool would come up to me like, "Yeah, I used to be fit like you, and then I had kids and I lost all my fitness." So when my wife was pregnant, I said, I am never going to be that guy that says I lost my fitness when my daughter was born. Like, I don't know. I just heard it so many times that I decided it was not going to be me. But I quickly learned after my daughter was born that like an infant needs a lot of care.
So much time.
And somebody once told me, before you have a kid, decide what your non-negotiables are and let everything else go. And I thought that was a nice piece of advice for a new parent. So I decided I will let everything go except my workouts. I'll find a way to get a workout. And I learned that my daughter actually slept till 5:30 in the morning. So I started getting up at 4:15, 4:30 and working out before she woke up. And it was so hard to make that switch. And I decided I'm the type of person that gets up at 4:15, and I would get up at 4:15 and walk into my garage gym or my basement, depending on the time of the year I move my equipment. And I lay on the floor for the entire hour and then get up and start my day. And over time, I would go down there and lay down for half an hour and then get up and work out for half hour. And eventually over time, that hour became a full hour workout. And now, so I've been doing it for 6 years. And my day starts off in such a better place when I do my morning workout. Like I'm just in a better space mentally. I'm ready to attack the day. I win the morning. All these great things happen when I start my day with a workout. But getting from laying in bed down to the gym is a really challenging piece. But it's paid off for me in so many ways. So that's one commitment that took a long time for me to put into place. I think it took 4 months for me to be able to get up and start my workout like within a 15-minute time span. And I'm glad that I made that commitment to myself.
Yeah, it's a good one. And again, it speaks to what your steps too, like one step at a time. Yeah. Gotta get out of bed.
One that you would love to do that you haven't quite been able to implement in your life just yet, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I've tried multiple times and I've never been able to achieve this. And I think it's because I like the flavor of what it gives, but I swear like a sailor in my normal conversation, just like bad. And I've tried the rubber band trick, and I've tried the change, drop some money in the bank. I've tried everything and I just cannot do it. I don't know what it is.
With that said, I got to give you mad credit, because when we first started this, I said to you, hey, like if we're going to do this pod, we need to be able to do it without expletives. You were up for the challenge and you have gone almost perfect.
I've done pretty well.
I've had to edit some stuff, but you've gone almost perfect. And that's so good. Yeah. I worked construction for many years, and I spit when I'm outside a lot. And we used to swear and spit like sailors, and I was a fisherman, so I actually
you got the title then.
Yeah, that's a hard one to break, but you've done an amazing job, at least on this podcast. So for an hour a week, you're crushing it.
Hey, one step at a time. If I look at if I implement the Peter way, this might work out great. I don't know. We'll see. But I just love the flavor that you drop a perfectly timed expletive, you can really get your point across.
I grew up on mid-90s rap music, so it was it's amazing. There are many things that I want to be implementing into my life that I'm falling short on, but the one now that I'm just hearing so much about as far as health and wellness goes is the intentionality piece. And with that comes some form of meditative practice.
Oh,
And that's different for everyone. And in a way, I actually think that my morning workouts play that role for me.
absolutely.
But I almost never quiet my mind. I'm always doing something, thinking something, listening to something. Even when I do dishes, it's a podcast. When I'm warming up, it's a podcast. When I'm working out, it's music. It's music all day long in the place where I teach. And I need to implement a meditative practice. And for the listeners out there, I mentioned this to Todd a while back, and he sent me a book on mindfulness. And it's a well, we'll talk more about it once I get going with it. But I received the book recently. I need to get going on it. And I know it's not just read the book and be done. It's you actually have to do the work, and I need to do that work. I think that would be really good for me. So I committed to 1 minute a day of deep breathing, and I still am not able even. I haven't even followed through on that. So I'm struggling there.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, you know how to get there, right? That it's funny. It's funny because I remember I was listening to one of the podcasts that we did, I don't know, a couple of days ago, and I was saying something about, I'm going to get my diet back, right before Christmas, and then we'll go through that. And I clearly have not. Like, I've just been drinking beer like a crazy man and eating whatever. I wake up and eat cookies for breakfast. It's ridiculous, and I'm just like, what am I doing? And then this conversation is so perfect. It's like, you got to find the balance. You got to start one step at a time. Don't break the chain. So all these things are like perfectly apt. And you dirty dog for putting it in January 1st, but yeah, I think it's perfect timing. That's what I was getting at there. But
well, one piece that we have put into practice, and that is happening on a weekly basis, is this conversation.
Indeed.
And I love it. So thanks for hanging out tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to me go on about all these things that I get super fired up about, and appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, I love it. Double blade, two-sided on that one.
All right. Well, you go stop drinking beer and eat better, and I'll go meditate.
Okay. Yeah. I'll see you there.
All right, everybody. We are out. Peace.
See ya.